Happy Good Friday. We're going to be starting this episode in a couple of minutes. So let us know if you're coming in to listen to this one, guys. Thank you very much for your company here this morning. And we're going to rip into a timely episode around navigating Easter. So if you are watching this one, guys, let us know in the comments that you're here and you're live, and we're going to be starting in 2 minutes. So ready to rock and roll. What is happening? All right, so who we got in here? Of course, it's the consistent folk of the Academy. Hello, Nika. How are you, mate? I hope you've had a good start to the morning. Good morning, Em. It's lovely to see you in here, Em. Em and Aspen here. Yes, Aspen's here as well. So good. Such a beautiful new photo too, Ems. I love that so much. Hey, Danny boy, how are you, mate? I hope you're good, pal. That's cool. Coming up to Edalong. Happy days, bro. Hopefully you get to see a few of the boys. Good morning, Tez. How are you, my legend? Lovely to see you through the week, brother. And who else we got here? We got Youngie. What's going on? Ducky, I hope you're good, brother. What else? Ezza, how are you, mate? Good to see you here, Ez. Lovely to have your company. We're going to be starting this episode in 1 minute, guys. We've got Steve Bizer Byron. How are you, dude? Steve, mate, we've got to make this podcast episode happening, mate. The powers to be are calling. Gym session in progress. Tez, what are you doing a gym session at 6:30 in the morning, mate? That's very late for you. All the way from the UK. Hey, Jen, how you going? Guys, we're going to get started in 30 seconds. So, team, tell us what you got going on for the Easter long weekend. Right across the world, it's a celebration of, obviously, love and family this weekend. So I'd love to know what you guys have planned. No doubt a little bit of chocolate and the like, which we're going to confront in this episode. It's going to be a super, super practical episode, guys. So if you think that anyone would get benefit from the podcast that's in your family or friends group, then certainly tag them in the comments and hopefully we can deliver some value. So I think we're ready to rock and roll. Oh, they're all coming in. Look at this. So we got Maddie Ball. How are you, brother? We've got Renee Manning. How are you, girl? Lovely to see you in here in the little smiley face. Scott's working, but we're heading up to the coast Saturday and Sunday to see the in-laws. I love that. So nice. Quiet for us as refocusing. Family party for Jen. It's all happening. Well, you know what, guys? I'm super stoked for you because I think that this is the time for Fam Bam. So let's get started. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Now, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Easter, be it Good Friday here in Australia. I think it's a really good time to kind of discuss, obviously, before the weekend, officially kicks off and the festivities start. We can talk a little bit about how to navigate this period. And, for us here, I'm in a lovely apartment in Bondi. It's our final and last day here in Australia before we fly out tomorrow night. So I guess we've got a pretty good day as well tomorrow. And it's just so nice to have the sun greeting us for once, because so much of our trip has been a washout. Not that I'm complaining, because, man, it's been so good to get to hang out with you guys and girls from the Academy, both in person and on a approximately normal time zone. So, guys, thank you so much for supporting everything that we do. Now, this episode has been born out of one of our new clients, and I want to shout him out, Mr. Raf. Raf is in Brazil. He joined us a couple of weeks ago, and he asked through our success team the question about how to navigate the weekends. So basically, what he feels is that he's kind of really good throughout the week, and he can tread the line really tightly. And then he kind of gets to the weekend and blows it out a little bit. So if you resonate with Raf, let me know in the comments if you feel that that's your struggle. And what I'm going to do is address both the mentality around that quickly, but then also give some practical recommendations on how I personally navigate weekends, public holidays, and the like? I think it's a really, really great question. And so many people feel anxious, during holiday times. They're kind of, it's based on them needing to really restrict and restrict and restrict, and then of course they're in the company of their family and friends, and they're like, how do I restrict anymore? And then they feel that the only way to go is to go from restriction to complete blowout. So who knows exactly what I mean? And this is the reason why we are doing this episode now. So I want to deal with the mindset firstly. And I think, this anxiety is kind of weird because a lot of people that feel that they're on, be it a health kick or a longer term transformation, they feel a little bit out of alignment when, Easter comes or they're surrounded by alcohol or whatever it is. And they end up kind of short term giving up on their goals because, it's the family that's priority and they get washed up in all the festivities. Does this make sense? So what I'm going to do here, guys, is to start off this episode, I'm going to kind of just give you 2 key points around mindset first. And I think that you'll enjoy these points because it will mean that you can have some indulgence this weekend. Okay? So the first of these points is around the need to introduce some self-awareness today and for the rest of the long weekend. And for that matter, every weekend, if the weekends are your problem. So what do I mean by self-awareness? I always talk about this analogy where if you were staying at your mate's house and you needed to get up and go to the toilet in the middle of the night, you'd be kind of padding around in the dark trying to find the way or using your phone flashlight, right? Well, self-awareness is very similar to you going from having to pad around in the dark to all of a sudden having someone turn the light on, and all of the things that usually trip you over, you are now able to see them clearly. And so when you bring more self-awareness into your life, what actually happens is it brightens up the room, it illuminates the room, so you just don't get tripped over by the same things over and over again. Or maybe you still get tripped over by them things, but you get up quickly because you can see, I tripped on that thing again. And eventually what happens is if you've done it a million times and you start to become aware of the things that wreck your gains, then you're less trapped by them. I want to give you one mindset first, which is that, guys, for you to be aware, self-aware, that you are free to eat whatever you want. You are free to drink whatever you want this weekend. Anything that you are abiding by here, you're imposing on yourself, okay? So this is important because a lot of people who really highly value their freedom and the ability to do whatever they want don't like being restricted, okay? And so by the very nature, there is some part of them that wants to rebel and eat all of the food and drink all of the piss. Do you understand what I mean by that, guys? So feeling restrained and restricted causes them to want to get to a time like this and just go, nah, fuck it, I'm just going to go all in. Guys, I want you to know that, you're imposing this on yourself. You are free to eat whatever you want. In the very same way that if you're in a relationship, be it married or short-term or somewhere in between, you are free to go out and have extramarital affairs with anyone else. You are free to do that. It's not that you're not necessarily breaking any laws. You can go and do that. But there are consequences that come with doing it. And I think that just because you have an all-you-can-eat buffet available to you, that doesn't mean that you're going to have an all-you-can-eat buffet and go and eat everything, right? So I think just understanding that you can do whatever you want. You are free. You are free to make the choices that you want to make. And then the second thing I think that we should realize is that a massive day is not going to outdo 3 months of progress, okay? I think a lot of people are like, whoa, fuck, I fell off the horse. And so because I fell off the horse at Easter or at Christmas or at Mother's Day or whatever the festive occasion is, my birthday, I might as well just give up. Guys, That's ridiculous. That's similar to you having an argument with your partner, one argument, and then saying, I need to quit this relationship because of that one argument that happened one time in a month. You are not going to undo 3 months of hard work with one big weekend, okay? And if you do put on a little bit of weight, just know that come Monday, Tuesday, your goal is just to get back on the horse. So I think these two mindsets are really important. You're free to choose whatever you want. There's no one boxing you in. You're the captain. And the second thing is that you're not going to outdo everything that you've done up till now just by one weekend. And I think these two mindsets should help to take the pressure off somewhat. So let's go into the practicalities of, how do you navigate Easter? How do you maintain the progress that you're in and come out the other side of Easter feeling kind of good about yourself? And that felt good. And yes, I had some stuff, but now I'm back on track and I haven't fallen off completely. I'm just going to make this really, really practical, guys, with 5 points. And these 5 points are exactly how I navigate this. I'm not making up theoretical stuff. This is exactly what I do, okay? So the first thing, number 1, is for you to know your rough calories that you should be aiming for and back end those calories. So let me explain what I mean by this. If you know that you're aiming for, say, 2,000 calories that you want to keep, well then, if you're going to have a massive, massive dinner or a few drinks in between, what's going to happen is it's going to mean that on the other two areas, the breakfast and the lunch, you're going to have to reduce the size of those meals and any drinks involved if you want to maintain the 2,000 calories that you say you want to maintain in this instance. So I call that back-ending the calories. So, for example, what I do on most festive days, be it a birthday or a Christmas or this case Easter, I will just skip breakfast, do a bunch of fasting, likely till about midday. When it comes to midday, what I'll do is have a pretty light lunch. I know that I'm going to have a big banging early dinner, and so I'm not going to just fill myself up twice. I'm going to stick roughly to where I want to be with the calories, but I'm just going to move them from being spread across the day to back towards the end of the day. Does that make sense, guys? And on a macro level, what you can actually do, you can think about the same thing over the course of a week. I mean, we set up these kind of arbitrary time frames of 24 hours, how many calories in 24 hours or how many calories in a week. But the reality is the body's just maintaining it like this. It doesn't work in 24-hour, time slots. So you can also do this over the course of a week. So if, for example, that you know that your week's been pretty good till now and your Friday has been your day where, you're going to get on the booze or going to do whatever, well, then you can make sure that on either side of that Friday, you perhaps have lower calorie days to offset the larger calorie days. Does this make sense? And the reason why so many people get undone by the weekend is they hit exactly what they want to for Monday to Friday, but then on Saturday and Sunday, they go into massive surpluses, which causes the fat gain. It's not being offset in the early part of the week. Does that make sense? So guys, the first tip is to back end your calories over the course of a day, which gives you the freedom to eat more liberally later at night, as an example. Okay, second thing here, guys, is it's important to remember that there are choices within choices. I think a lot of us kind of say, we think in black and white. We think in bad or good. So let me give you an example. One of those big Cadbury bunnies that you see that's like this tall and weighs a fair bit, you're probably looking at about 700 calories for that bunny. And if we take the average kind of protein bar, which is still mostly chocolate, it's about 200 calories. Now, you got to ask yourself, is it that I'm craving something sweet? Or is it that I'm specifically wanting that chocolate Easter bunny? And if you want the chocolate Easter bunny, go the chocolate Easter bunny. I guess just for me, I have a couple of protein bars a day, and to me, there's no difference to me between that and a Mars bar, aside from the fact that I know that one is completely sugar, the other one has some macro benefits, but it's chocolate, right? And so for me, is it that you're craving the sweetness, or is it that you specifically need that bunny? That's a rhetorical question, but what I would personally do is I would take the protein bar, and if it's about having chocolate and stuff like that with your kids, what I would personally do is do what a lot of the boys do. Melt your chocolate bar down, do whatever you want to do, pour it over some Halo Top ice cream, and you're still having the thing, but it's not going to contain the same amount of calories as the thing that we're talking about, eggs and bunnies and the like. Does that make sense, guys? So there are always choices within choices. And I've got another example of this, and that is of alcohol. Right inside the academy, as you know, one of our golden rules is drinking your calories is a problem. When you drink your calories, you don't have to chew them. So there's no resistance. So you can literally pour in calories. So most liquids go down the same way. So what we can do is just be mindful that if we're going to have calories, right, in liquid form, what ways can we minimize the amount of calories? So even though they're going to provide no resistance, how can we make sure that the impact isn't huge? Well, the simple ways to do this, the two obvious ones that come, is if you're going to get on the beer, and no problems at all if you're going to have a few beers, but choose a low-calorie beer. I'm kind of at the point personally in my life, and again, I'm just sharing what I do, where there's just seems no value in drinking full-calorie super beers to me. For me personally, I just don't see the value in it anymore. It means that I need to offset those alcohol calories at some point. I wake up feeling really shit. One of the things that I've personally discovered is what are called ultra low alcohol beers. So the average, canned beer or bottled beer is about 4.5%. I've started drinking the ones that are about 0.5%. They're in the range of about 75 calories and 0.5%. So it's almost like you're not really drinking alcohol, but some part of you is like, this still feels festive. So there are choices within choices. And the last example of that would be, well, what about if you're a spirit drinker? There is still a fair amount of calories in the spirit itself, but when you double it up with, full calorie mixes, that's where a lot of the calorie load comes in. So the simple way to move there is to have it with either soda or one of the diet or naturally flavored versions. You're really not knowing the difference and you're still having the thing. So this basically means you can either have twice as much for the same amount of calories if you're that way inclined, or you can have half the amount of calories. Does this make sense, guys? So number 2 is that there are choices within choices. Number 3 is that we need to operate by what we call inside the academy the deposit withdrawal strategy. So how does a bank account grow? A bank account grows when you make far more deposits than you do take out money. Okay, that's the way a bank account grows. And if you're looking at your bank account going, why do I not have more money? Most often people think it's an earning problem, but more to the point, it's a spending problem. That's the problem with most people. It's a spending problem. And so the same goes for when we put on weight. We ask ourselves, like, how is it that I've put on so much weight? I'm doing this and I'm doing that, but I'm still putting on weight. It's because, like the bank account, the deposits versus the withdrawals are out of ratio. So what I would be doing, and certainly I intend to do this around the flights that we take over the next day, is to look at where are the opportunities that I can have to do my steps and train each day. Okay, these are the two most fundamental things. I think going away on holidays or spending time with the family often ends up in like super sedentary type lifestyle where we're kicking our feet up and doing nothing much. The problem with that is that you then essentially compound things. So what I would suggest is operate by this idea that, okay, I'm going to have the withdrawal. I'm going to take some, inverted commas, money out of my bank account, and that's okay. But I'm also going to make far more deposits over the course of this weekend, which is overall going to help me to move forward. So what we've got so far, guys, is this. Number one, back end your calories. Number two is that you've got choices within the choices. Number three is to operate by the deposit withdrawal strategy and make sure that you're doing other things as well as indulging. Number four, this is to not compound things. And what I mean by this is sometimes when we get to this time of year, what ends up happening is we sleep in and we normally maybe get up at 6 o'clock, 6:30, and that really kickstarts our day. But then we get to this point in time and we've got a few days off, so we sleep in, which means our steps don't get done, which means our gym doesn't get done, which means that we have a big breakfast because we're at home, which means that there's no calorie mindfulness. And what we end up doing is take on this idea that I talked about at the start, is that I've just messed things up, so you know what? I'm just going to let loose. It doesn't work like that, guys. Things are on a scale of gray. So if you take a couple withdrawals, right? That's cool. Have the withdrawals, enjoy them, but don't go and compound it into multiple things. So as I said, if you're partial to a little bit of chocolate over the course of the weekend and a few beers, go for it, right? You're going to have a long life to be very, very good at on the straight line. However, right, don't compound it by then saying, okay, I'm going now because I've had 2 beers, I'm going to have 10 beers. And now because I've had 10 beers, I'm not going to go to the gym the entire weekend. And now because I didn't do this, I'm not going to do this and not going to do this, not going to do this. And what ends up happening is you take what is really just a small little indulgence, which is completely fine, and you're making this a big problem, and it doesn't need to be. So once you've had the fun, then go back to living. It doesn't have to be this abomination that you feel like a failure just because you blew it out of the water for a little bit down here. And then the final point is to not go on a Easter, drink and food bender. So we talked about compounding things in the last example. And by compounding things, I'm talking about not doing gym, not doing sleep, not doing tracking, not doing this, not doing that. When I say, I want to speak more to the number of days in a row, okay? So just because you have one big day, for example, today, or it might be Easter Saturday, or it might be Easter Sunday, that doesn't mean that it needs to become a complete write-off of a week going right up till the end of next Sunday. We don't need to operate by that idea. It's quite fine for you to be able to offset a 4,000 calorie day. You might have a big 4,000 calorie day, and that's completely fine. But trying to offset 3 or 4,000 calorie days is largely impossible. Does this make sense, guys? So look, a very practical episode today. I'm going to go back over the 5 points right now as baby starts to scream in the background. Number one is back end your calories. It's very simple. If you know you're going to have a big dinner, then back end the calories back there. Number two is that you've got choices within choices. You don't always have to take the full calorie thing. Why not we just make some of the better choices, right, in between? So have the chocolate without having all the chocolate. Number three is to maintain your activity level and work off that deposit withdrawal strategy. Number four is don't compound things. Don't compound things. And number five is don't compound sleep. Don't compound time and days. The idea, guys, is that, you should be able to navigate this period with no self-guilt, right? It shouldn't be this thing where you are kind of, I shouldn't be having that, I shouldn't be having that, and I shouldn't be having that. There's part of you which wants to be self-aware enough to go, you know what? I can choose to do whatever I want. And if you're making a conscious choice and not getting caught in a reactive pattern, then it's completely fine to just let your hair down, enjoy yourself. Guys, hopefully this has been a simple reminder about, why it's important to move away from being boxed in. The only way you're going to ever find complete freedom in your health and fitness is if you bring some self-awareness to your decisions, which means that you can go to a barbecue or go to a friend's house and you can go, you know what, with some prior thought, what do I actually want to do here? What do I want to eat? What state of intoxication do I want to be in? If you're making a conscious choice to get drunk, then do it. As long as it's a conscious choice and not an old pattern that you're slipping into without actually choosing that. Guys, I hope this has been helpful. I want to wish you all the most beautiful, beautiful, safe, and happy Easter with your friends and family. I love you. Thanks for tuning into the podcast this morning. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast, the pod that you listen to when you're sick of the dumb diets, unsustainable workout programs, and I'll see you on the other side of Easter. I love you guys.